My father looked me straight in the eye over Sunday dinner and told me to sign my house over to my brother because his girlfriend was pregnant. Not sell it, not rent it, sign it over. Like the home I had worked 6 years to buy was just an extra bedroom nobody was using. I smiled, said I would think about it, drove home, changed every lock before sunrise, and made one promise to myself. No one in my family would ever take another thing from me again. I know that sounds cold if you only hear their side of the story. My parents would probably say I abandoned my brother when he needed me most. They would say family should come before property. They would say I had more than enough, and Andrew had a baby on the way. But families like mine are very good at making the person who finally says no look like the villain. I did not grow up in some visibly terrible home. We lived in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio, in a split-level house with a trimmed lawn. Thanksgiving dinners framed school pictures in the hallway, and neighbors who waved from their driveways. My parents fed us, clothed us, and sent us to school. From the outside, we looked like a normal American family, maybe even a happy one. But inside that house, everyone knew the order. Andrew came first. I came after whatever was left. Andrew was 3 years older than me, and in my parents' eyes, he could do no wrong. When he failed, he was stressed. When he quit, he was searching for his passion. When he wasted money, he deserved to enjoy life while he was young. I learned early that Andrew's wants became needs, and my needs became lessons. When I was 12, I saved for 3 months to buy a used bike from a neighbor. It had mismatched tires and duct tape over a tear in the seat, but I was proud of it because it was mine. A week later, Andrew mentioned that his friends had mountain bikes. That Saturday, my father took him to a sporting goods store and came home with a brand new $500 bike. Andrew rode it twice and left it in the garage. When I asked why he got a new bike and I had to save for mine, my dad said, "Your brother needs reliable transportation." He was 15 and got rides everywhere. That was how it always went. In high school, I made honor roll every semester and got a casual. That's nice honey from my mother, while she packed Andrew's lunch because he was running late. Andrew barely passed English, and my parents hired him a tutor. When he got accepted to a 4-year college 2 states away, they paid for tuition, housing, a car, and spending money. When I asked if they could help with community college books, just the books, my father told me working for what I wanted would build character. So, I built character. I worked nights at a shipping warehouse from 10 at night until 6 in the morning, loading trucks under fluorescent lights, then went straight to class, smelling like cardboard and coffee. I lived with roommates who never cleaned, drove a car that sounded like it was begging to die, and counted every dollar before buying groceries. Some mornings I sat in the campus parking lot with my head against the steering wheel, wondering if I could keep going. Then I went inside anyway. Andrew came home from college after 2 years because it wasn't the right fit. My parents called it a reset. He moved back into his old room, ate their food, used my dad's truck, and talked about business ideas he never actually started. Nobody charged him rent. Nobody told him he needed character. After community college, I got an entry-level job at an insurance office and slowly worked my way up. I answered phones, processed claims, stayed late, took extra shifts, and saved everything I could. I packed lunches instead of eating out. I skipped vacations. I bought clothes on clearance. My goal was simple. I wanted to own a house before I turned 30. People smiled politely when I said that, like I was dreaming too big. But I kept saving. $50 one month, $200 the next. A tax refund straight into savings. A Christmas bonus I pretended I never received. It was slow, but it was mine. At 27, I found the house. A small 3-bedroom ranch, 40 minutes outside the city, on a quiet street, with old maple trees and cracked sidewalks. The kitchen was outdated, the basement smelled damp, and the front porch leaned slightly to one side. But the roof was solid, the foundation was good, and sunlight came through the living room windows in a way that made the whole place feel like it was waiting for me. I bought it with my own money. No family help, no secret check from my parents. No one standing behind me at closing saying they were proud. Just me, my savings, my signature, and a set of keys in my hand. When my parents came to see it, they stayed 20 minutes. My mother said the cabinets looked old. My father said the commute was too long. Andrew did not come at all. That night, I sat on the living room floor eating takeout from a paper plate and cried. Not because they had disappointed me. I expected that. I cried because for the first time in my life, something was truly mine. Every wall I painted, every floorboard I sanded, every cabinet handle I replaced made that house feel more like proof. Proof that I had survived being overlooked. Proof that I did not need anyone to choose me. Proof that I could build a life no one handed to me. 3 years later, Andrew's girlfriend got pregnant. Suddenly, he decided an apartment was not good enough for a baby. He needed a real home. My parents agreed. And on a Sunday night after pot roast fake smiles and my favorite apple pie, they finally explained their solution. My house was perfect for Andrew. I lived there alone, they said. I had 3 bedrooms. He had a family coming. I was stable. He was under pressure. I could rent somewhere else. He needed roots. I looked around that dinner table and realized they were serious. My father was calm. My mother was hopeful. Andrew stared at his plate like a coward, and I understood something clearly. They had never seen my house as something I earned. They saw it as something Andrew deserved. For a few seconds, I thought I had misunderstood them. Maybe my father meant Andrew should look for a house like mine. Maybe they wanted advice about mortgages, down payments, or first-time buyer programs. But then Dad folded his hands on the table, looked at me like the decision had already been made, and said, "Your house is the best solution." I stared at him. My house mom reached for her water glass. "Honey, you live there alone. 3 bedrooms are a lot for one person." Andrew kept his eyes on his plate. Bethany sat beside him with one hand on her pregnant belly, looking uncomfortable, but not surprised enough. That told me everything. They had all talked about this before I arrived. "So, what exactly are you asking?" I said. Dad cleared his throat. "We think you should sign the house over to Andrew." The room went silent. I laughed once, not because it was funny, but because my brain refused to accept that grown adults had planned this dinner and thought it was reasonable. "You want me to give Andrew my house. Do not make it sound ugly," Mom said. "No one is taking anything." "That is exactly what this is." Dad's face tightened. "Your brother has a baby coming. He needs stability. Then he should buy a house." "He cannot afford anything decent right now," Mom said. "The market is awful. Everything suitable for a baby is too expensive. Then he should rent a bigger apartment." Bethany finally spoke. "We do not want to raise our baby in some cramped rental." I looked at her, then at Andrew. "So your plan is to take my home." Andrew's head came up. "You got lucky. You bought before prices went crazy." That one word hit me harder than the request. Lucky. Not disciplined. Not exhausted. Not the woman who worked nights at a warehouse and went to class half asleep. Not the woman who skipped vacations, packed cheap lunches, drove a dying car, and saved every dollar while Andrew moved back home whenever life got inconvenient. Lucky. "I did not get lucky," I said. "I worked for that house. I saved for years. I bought a fixer-upper and repaired it myself." Dad waved his hand like my effort was just background noise. "We know you worked hard, but family means sacrifice." For Andrew. For family, he corrected. That word had always been dangerous in our house. Family meant understanding when Andrew quit college. Family meant helping him move. Family meant listening to my parents praise him for the smallest effort while treating my accomplishments like normal chores. But somehow family had never meant helping me. Mom leaned forward, using the soft voice she saved for guilt. "We would not leave you with nothing. Your father and I could help with first month's rent and a security deposit somewhere nice." I blinked at her. "You want me to trade a house I own for an apartment you help me rent? You are single," Dad said. "You have a good job. You can start over easier than Andrew can. I am not starting over because Andrew did not plan ahead. Andrew pushed back from the table. That is not fair. I almost smiled. You want to talk about fair? His expression changed because he knew exactly where that road led. Dad cut in before I could continue. Do not turn this into old childhood drama. It is not old to me. Mom sighed like I was embarrassing her. You have always been independent. We thought you would understand. There it was. They had mistaken being ignored for being strong. They left me to figure everything out alone, then acted shocked when I refused to hand over the life I built without them. I understand perfectly, I said. You helped Andrew with college. You helped him with cars. You let him live at home rent-free whenever he needed to reset. Now he wants something you cannot give him, so you want me to pay the price. Bethany's eyes filled with tears. This is about the baby. No, I said. This is about adults making choices and expecting me to fix them. Andrew looked hurt. I am trying to do the right thing for my family. Then do it. Find a place you can afford. Build from there. That is what I did. Dad's voice dropped. You are being selfish. That word landed exactly where he wanted it to. For a second, I felt 12 years old again, standing beside my used bike, while Andrew's brand new one shined in the garage. Then I remembered I was not 12 anymore. I was 30. I had a mortgage, a deed, a career, and a front door with my name behind it. I stood up slowly. I am not signing over my house. Mom's face hardened. After everything we have done for you, I looked at her. You did the basics. I am grateful for the basics, but you do not get to charge me a house for raising me. Dad stood too. Sit down. We are not finished. Yes, we are. Andrew finally looked desperate. Can you at least think about it? I studied him for a moment. My older brother, my parents' favorite. A grown man with a baby coming, still waiting for someone else to solve his life. Then I nodded. Fine, I will think about it. I walked out before anyone could answer. On the drive home, my hands shook on the steering wheel. Not because I was unsure, but because I finally understood. They had not invited me to dinner to ask for help. They had invited me to surrender. When I pulled into my driveway, I sat in the dark and stared at my house. The porch light glowed over the steps I had repaired myself. The windows reflected the living room I had painted alone on weekends. Every inch of that place carried my time, my money, my loneliness, and my pride. By the time I unlocked my front door, my decision was no longer emotional. It was permanent. Before midnight, I scheduled a locksmith, changed every important password, and searched how to place a fraud alert on my property deed. My family thought I will think about it meant they still had a chance. They were wrong. The next morning, I did not wait for my family to make the next move. I already knew how they worked. First came the guilt. Then came the pressure. Then came the small compromise that somehow always became exactly what Andrew wanted. So I acted before they could. At 8 in the morning, a locksmith named Frank pulled into my driveway in an old white van with dented doors and a coffee cup balanced on the dashboard. He was in his 60s, quiet and professional. He did not ask why a woman with a perfectly normal-looking house wanted every lock changed on a Monday morning. He just nodded, opened his toolbox, and got to work. Front door, back door, side door, garage entry. Every lock was replaced. While he worked, I drove to the hardware store and bought a large no trespassing sign, not one of those cute wooden farmhouse signs people hang for decoration. This one was metal official looking and impossible to misunderstand. I bought a post for it too, then planted it at the end of my driveway where anyone pulling up would see it before they reached my porch. After Frank left, I stood in my living room with the new keys in my hand. They looked ordinary, but they felt like a boundary. For the first time in my life, I was not just hoping my family would respect me. I was making it difficult for them not to. Then I made phone calls. I called my mortgage company and added a password to my account. I called my bank and requested extra verification for any large transaction. I changed my email password, my banking password, and every password connected to my personal information. I checked my credit report. I found my closing documents, deed, mortgage, paperwork, and title insurance, then put everything in a fireproof safe I bought that same day. Finally, I called the county recorder's office. A woman named Patricia answered. Her voice sounded tired in the way government employees often sound, but when I explained that my family had pressured me to transfer my home, she became serious. You would be surprised how often family is the problem, she said. That sentence made me feel less crazy. She walked me through a property alert system. If anyone tried to file anything connected to my deed, I would be notified. It cost almost nothing, but it gave me something I had not felt since Sunday dinner: control. For 2 days, nobody contacted me. No calls. No texts. No dramatic messages from my mother about how disappointed she was. The silence almost felt peaceful, but I knew better. My family was not done. They were regrouping. On Wednesday afternoon, I saw my father's truck pull up through the front window. He walked to the porch like he belonged there. Then he took out his old key and tried to unlock my front door. I watched him from inside. The key did not turn. He tried again, harder this time. When it still did not work, he stepped back and stared at the lock as if it had personally betrayed him. Then he knocked. I opened the door but did not move aside. His eyes went from my face to the new lock. You changed the locks? Yes. Why? Because it is my house. His jaw flexed. You really think I would come in without permission? I looked at the key still in his hand. You just tried. That is not the point. It is exactly the point. He stared at me for a long moment. I could see him trying to find the version of me he was used to, the one who softened first, the one who apologized to make everyone comfortable, the one who accepted being called difficult because fighting back took too much energy. That version of me was not available anymore. Dad lowered his voice. Your mother has been crying. I am sorry she is upset. Andrew has not slept. That sounds like something Andrew needs to handle. He is your brother. And this is my home. His face darkened. You are making this ugly. No, you made it ugly when you asked me to give away my house at dinner. He stepped closer, but I did not move. We asked you to help your family. You asked me to erase 6 years of work because Andrew wants an easier life. That is not fair. I almost laughed, that word again. Fairness only mattered in my family when Andrew was not getting what he wanted. Dad glanced past me into the living room like he was looking at the prize instead of the person standing in front of it. You do not need all this. Something inside me went cold. I need you to leave. His eyes snapped back to mine. Excuse me, you heard me. Leave my property. For a second, I thought he might argue. Then he looked toward the driveway and noticed the no trespassing sign. His expression changed from anger to insult. You put up a sign, yes, for your own family. For anyone who needs reminding? He shook his head slowly. We raised you better than this. No, I said. You raised me to work for what I wanted. I did. Now you do not like that you cannot take it. He looked at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe becoming yourself feels like betrayal to people who benefited from you having no boundaries. Dad stepped off the porch. This is not over. I closed the door before his truck even started. My hands shook once the lock clicked, but I did not cry. I went straight to my desk, opened a blank document, and wrote down everything. The date, the time, the old key, the conversation, the threat in his final words. Then I saved it. If my family wanted a fight, I would not give them chaos. I would give them records. After my father left, the silence lasted exactly 1 day. Then my mother called. I let it ring until voicemail. She called again. Then again. By the 4th call, I answered not because I wanted to talk, but because I wanted to know what angle they would try next. She was crying before I even said hello. I cannot believe you would treat your father that way, she said. He came to you heartbroken, and you shut the door in his face. He tried to use an old key to enter my house. He is your father. He is not the owner. There was a pause, then a shaky breath. What happened to you? You used to care about this family. That line might have worked on me years ago. It might have made me apologize just to stop the guilt from pressing on my chest. But after Sunday dinner, something in me had changed. I could hear the manipulation now. It sounded less like love and more like a script. I do care, I said. That is why I am being honest. Andrew cannot have my house. He is scared, she whispered. Bethany is scared. They are about to have a baby, and you are acting like this is only about money. It is not about money. It is about my home. You have no children, and I still need somewhere to live. You could find an apartment. Andrew could find an apartment too. Her crying stopped for a second. That was when I knew the tears were not sadness. They were a tool. You are punishing him, she said. No, I am refusing to reward him. Mom's voice sharpened. Do you hear yourself? This is your niece or nephew we are talking about? No, Mom. This is my deed, my mortgage, and my front door. She hung up on me. That night, Andrew sent a long text. It started with an apology but quickly turned into a sales pitch. He said he understood why I was upset. He said the dinner had been handled badly. He said maybe I could rent the house to him and Bethany for a while, just until they got on their feet. He promised they would pay what they could. He promised I could trust him. He said the baby deserved a yard. I read it twice, then deleted it. The baby deserved parents who made realistic plans. That was not cruel. That was adulthood. On Friday, Bethany showed up alone. I saw her on the camera standing on my porch, in a loose gray sweater, one hand supporting her belly. She looked tired. Not dramatic tired, actually tired. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. I am not here to argue, she said. That would be smart. She gave a small, nervous laugh. I know this whole thing is awful. That is one word for it. She looked down at the welcome mat, then back at me. I did not know your dad was going to say it like that, but you knew they wanted my house. Her silence answered first. Andrew told me they had an idea, she admitted. He said your parents thought you might be willing to help. I thought maybe they meant selling it to us someday or letting us stay short-term. I did not know they were going to ask you to sign it over. I studied her face. She looked embarrassed but not innocent. You could have said something at dinner. I know, she said quietly. I should have. For a moment, neither of us spoke. A car passed on the street. Somewhere nearby, a dog barked behind a fence. Bethany rubbed her stomach. Andrew is panicking. His parents have him convinced that if he does not bring this baby home to a house, he is already failing. Plenty of good parents raise babies in apartments. I know. Then tell him that. I have tried. There was something in her voice that made me soften, not toward the situation, but toward her. She was not the center of the problem. She had stepped into a family pattern that existed long before she got pregnant. But sympathy was not permission. I hope you two figure something out, I said. But it will not involve my house. She nodded slowly, I figured. Then she surprised me. For what it is worth, I would not give up my home either. I did not know what to say to that. She turned to leave, then looked back once. Your parents make Andrew feel like everything should be easy for him. I think it has hurt him more than helped him. After she left, I stood in the doorway for a long time, because that was the first honest thing anyone had said all week. The next morning, honesty disappeared again. I woke up to a notification from the county property alert system. Someone had requested a copy of my deed. My stomach tightened before I even opened the message. The requester was my father. I called Patricia at the recorder's office as soon as they opened. She confirmed that requesting a copy was legal. Public records were public records. But she also said my alert was doing exactly what it was supposed to do. Keep documenting everything she told me. And if you have an attorney now, would be a good time to call. So I did. The lawyer I had used when I bought the house remembered me. His name was Mark, and after I explained everything, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Your family has no legal claim to your property, I know. But they may try to scare you into thinking they do." That was exactly what I needed to hear. By Monday afternoon, Mark had sent my parents a formal letter. It stated clearly that the house was solely mine, that I had no intention of transferring or renting it, and that any further harassment regarding the property would be documented for legal action. For 3 days, nothing happened. No calls, no visits, no texts from Andrew, no crying voicemails from Mom. Then Thursday night at 1:18 p.m., my doorbell camera lit up. Andrew was on my porch. He looked terrible. Unshaven, pale eyes red like he had not slept. He leaned toward the camera and said, "Please, I just need to talk." I stared at the screen in my hand. Then I pressed the microphone button. "You have 5 minutes." I almost did not open the door. Andrew stood on my porch at almost midnight, looking less like the golden child and more like a man finally realizing no one could carry him through fatherhood. His hair was messy, his eyes were red, and for once, he did not look confident that the world would bend for him. I spoke through the camera first. "You have 5 minutes." He nodded quickly. "Please, just 5. Against my better judgment, I opened the door but stayed in the doorway. I did not invite him in. That small choice mattered. For once, he was not walking into my life like he had a right to be there. Andrew rubbed both hands over his face. "I know you hate me right now." I said nothing. He looked toward the street, then back at me. "Bethany is scared. The baby could come early. The condo we found is small. Mom and Dad are acting like I failed before the kid is even here. I do not know what to do." His voice cracked on the last sentence, and for a second I saw the scared boy underneath all the entitlement. But pity was not the same as responsibility. "You find a place you can afford," I said. "You sign a lease. You make a budget. You stop letting Mom and Dad convince you that your life has to look perfect before you can be a decent father." He swallowed hard. "I thought you would help me." "I would have," I said, "if you had asked for real help, advice, a moving truck, help painting a nursery, maybe even help looking at listings. But you did not ask for help. You sat at that table and let them ask for my home." He looked down. For the first time, he did not argue. "I should have stopped them," he said. "Yes," I answered. "You should have." The silence between us felt heavy but clean. No one was pretending anymore. Then he said, "Can we work something out? I could pay you over time. Fair market value. Maybe we put it in writing." I shook my head before he finished. "No." He stared at me. "You did not even think about it." "I do not need to. My house is not for sale. Not even to family. Especially not to family that thinks guilt is a payment plan." His face tightened. For a moment I thought the old Andrew would come back, the one who got offended when the world did not hand him what he wanted. But he only nodded slowly. "So, that is it. That is it." He turned to leave, then stopped at the porch steps. "Mom says you are tearing the family apart." I almost laughed, but I was too tired. "No, Andrew. I am refusing to be the glue that keeps holding broken things together." He looked back at me then, and something in his expression changed. Maybe he finally understood. Maybe he did not. Either way, it no longer mattered. He left without another word. I locked the door and slept better than I had in weeks. The next morning, I woke up to 12 missed calls from my mother and 3 voicemails. I deleted them without listening. My father sent one text, "This is not over." I took a screenshot, saved it in my folder, and blocked his number. Then I blocked my mother's number. Then Andrew's. It felt strange at first, like stepping off a moving sidewalk and suddenly realizing how loud it had been. The quiet in my house was not empty. It was peaceful. 2 weeks later, I heard through a cousin that Andrew and Bethany signed a lease on a 2-bedroom condo 15 minutes from the hospital. It had no big backyard, no perfect nursery, no white fence for my mother to brag about on Facebook. But it was clean, safe, and within their budget. In other words, it was exactly what they should have chosen from the beginning. My mother posted pictures online with a caption about how proud she was of Andrew for providing for his growing family. I saw it because someone sent me a screenshot, probably expecting me to react. I did not. Let her rewrite the story. I had the real one written down. When the baby was born 3 months later, Bethany sent me one photo by email. A tiny girl in a pink hospital blanket, eyes closed, face wrinkled and serious, like she had already judged all of us. Bethany wrote, "Her name is Grace. I know things are complicated, but I wanted you to know she is here and healthy." I stared at the message for a long time before replying, "Congratulations. I am glad she is healthy." That was all. No promise to visit. No doorway reopened for my parents to walk through. A month later, Bethany came by one last time. She did not bring the baby. She stood on my porch and said Andrew wanted to apologize but did not know how. I told her that was something he would have to figure out himself. She nodded, then said quietly, "For what it is worth, I think you were right. What they asked was insane." I appreciated that more than I expected. Before she left, she added, "The condo is fine. Grace is fine. We are making it work." I smiled a little. Good. That is what adults do. Life went on after that, which was the part my family never understood. They thought cutting contact would destroy me. Instead, my days became calmer. I finished renovating the bathroom. I planted flowers along the front walkway. I replaced the old mailbox my father once criticized. On quiet evenings, I sat on my porch with a cup of coffee and watched the neighborhood kids ride bikes under the maple trees. My house no longer felt like something I had to defend every second. It felt like home again. Sometimes people think family loyalty means giving until there is nothing left of you. They call it love when you surrender selfishness when you finally protect yourself. But I learned the truth the hard way. A home is not just walls and rooms. It is the proof of every sacrifice no one saw. It is the life you built when nobody clapped. And no one, not even family, has the right to take that from you, just because someone else wants an easier path. My parents wanted me to give Andrew my house because he had a baby coming. Instead, I changed the locks. And for the first time in my life, I did not feel guilty for keeping what was mine.